On behalf of the Native Plant Society of Texas, welcome to our presentation today. I am Bill Hopkins, Vice President of Communications for the Society. This is our first presentation of a new series that we will be hosting on the first Wednesday of each month between 12 and 1 p.m. Call it a lunch and learn. Some of us have been referring to it as high noon because of the time of day. We decided to do this series because of requests from our members and the public to offer more virtual programs. The past year has shown us that there is an audience out there for virtual programs like these. There are many native plant enthusiasts out there who don't have a chapter near them or who can't get to their Native Plant Society chapter meetings for one reason or another. Our plan is to offer presentations about native plants and plant habitats live over Zoom and also to record them for later viewing over our YouTube channel. Our presenters will be speakers from within our own society or from related organizations or related fields of study. So if you're interested in seeing more programs like this, mark your calendars for the first Wednesday of each month at noon, or sign up on our website to get reminders about upcoming programs. Our speaker today, and the first speaker in our series, will be our own president of the Native Plant Society, Kim Conrow. Kim is a former high school science teacher who lives south of Fort Worth. A little over a year ago, Kim began making regular visits to a prairie near her home where she would walk with friends and family and her dogs. Kim says these walks became a blessing to her in a time when she felt socially isolated, and she wants to share some of her experiences with us. She also says that she thinks her walks there kept her a little more sane than otherwise. So,
Debatable.
Kim?
Okay. Well, thank you for the introduction, Bill. I appreciate you asking me to speak, and it's fun to kick this off. So I'm going to share my screen. All right. Well, thank you all for coming today, Native Plant Society, and we have our logo here for our fall symposium. Bill asked me to do this at the end of almost the end of my presidency. This was a picture taken by Robert Camper at the beginning of my presidency on February 29th. And no one knew that we were going to have a pandemic coming, and we were all very hopeful. We'd had a really great day, but we had to spend 5 months at home. And it come around September, I realized that I had to get out of the house, and I had to do more than just wander around my yard. And so I went to a local prairie, and it's part of the Grand Prairie. It's the Fort Worth Prairie, and I went there, started going with my friend Lisa and my husband Ray and niece Karina and Lisa's daughter Quinn. And then many friends came along the way over the course of 9 months. So I'm going to take you on a tour with me, a saunter across the prairie. And it's just a walk. Just take a walk with me, and I hope you enjoy it. So you can read, Bill, can you read that? Let's make sure that my text is not covered up. Bill? Oh, he's probably muted.
The text was covered up, but you moved something away from it, so it's okay now.
Okay. All right. So anyway, with a single step and a choice to go and be in nature, friends became family. And there's Lisa, and she jumped in the water, and it was a pretty swift current. It took her down, and there's Gwen. And our physical and mental health improved along the way over time, of course. We needed to have social activity, and we needed to have the healing thing that nature can provide. And we fell in love with the prairie. It's an absolutely beautiful place. It's near Fort Worth. It's a prairie that Prairie Seekers for the Native Prairie Association of Texas have done workshops there. It's a lovely place. And here is a Google satellite view of it. I don't know if you can tell, but if you go to the lower right corner where there's a blue mark, that marks a road. And right in front of that is a little opening, and that's a parking lot. And then if you can go from there, you can kind of see a little trail. And the trail goes along the bottom, and then it goes up, and then you can kind of go up to the upper left area, and you see what becomes a creek. And that comes out of a neighborhood in Fort Worth, South Fort Worth. And the creek there then feeds into Benbrook Lake. And there's Benbrook Lake, and the prairie that I walk on is off. It's not in this picture, it's off to the left. But you can go online and you can look at the Benbrook Lake Master Plan. And in your reading, you'll find that the east side is now designated as an environmentally sensitive area. And thanks to Marty Underwood for getting that designated as that. So it's hopefully protected. So we started our saunters in October. And we all know we're gardeners, and we know that October is a beautiful time of the year, and it's the best time to plant, you know, your woody plants and things. They get a rest over winter. Starting at the upper left, there's the snail seed vine, and then a ringo, which is one of my favorite plants in purple. And maybe not the best picture there of goldenrod, but goldenrod is out. And then in the lower right, you have the fall blooming asters. So as we move through this, you'll be seeing the same things over and over again, the same trails, the same trees, the same bushes, and maybe start paying attention, and you can start seeing landmarks. So fall, this place is covered in grass. Grasses make prairie. Here's a seep muley. There's a lot of seeps out here. There's limestone all over the place. Then on the right is side oats grama, our state grass, and little blue stem. And then hiding behind little blue stem is prairie broomweed. We notice with much delight that we're going to see roses later on, because here on the right left, get it straight here, is a rose hip. So we're excited to see that. And then in the center is a orchid, a lady tresses orchid. Very surprised to see that right off the trail. And then milkweeds abound in this beautiful prairie. They, of course, are seeding here. And there's a slough. As it gets closer to the lake, it's called a slough. I think it's called the Sid Richardson Slough. And then maybe as it goes through the neighborhood and goes a little further towards the lake, away from the lake, it might be called, oh gosh, I had the name and I just forgot it. Well, at any rate, maybe the No Name Creek. But it's a beautiful area, and it's not far from here. So we enjoyed walking October. Here's Karina in the foreground and Lisa there in the background. We kept our distance. We were COVID safe. Okay, and it's not moving. There we go. So here we are still in October. Some evidence of wildlife here, deer, a deer track, harvester ants. There's two. Oh, that looks like a little bone in there, maybe, or maybe just a little piece of, I don't know, that's interesting. Tarantulas, and then of course a scary October moon. And now we're moving into November. It looks colder there because it is colder in November, with that nice little kind of steel blue sky and the prairie going up the hill. So we have two little dips of swales on the main part of the trail, and then a third swale before you get to what we call the Eringo Meadow. But the prairie is always changing. It's always beautiful, even in winter. I really, in fact, this might be my favorite season, is fall / going into winter. There's all kinds of little pocket meadows and secret places that you can find if you meander through the woods. We have silver blue stem in the upper picture, and the lower picture is little blue stem, and it takes on lots of different looks through the fall. It can look like this and something completely different. Clouds are nice. And we do have woods. So it's not just prairie, it's prairie and woods, because it's across timbers and prairies. which is part of the Grand Prairie that goes up into the middle of our country. So, but when you go into the woods, you're like, it's a little scary. What's in the woods? What can you find in there? We found what we don't know, we called it a hobo camp. We don't really know, but these pots and pans and the lantern there, they looked pretty old, maybe 20, 30 years, I don't know. That's glass on that, so it would be. And bones, of course, animal bones, something's died there. And on the vertebra, you can see it's been there for a long time, I guess. It's got some green on it. So it is growing algae and a lichen here in the center picture on the left. And it looks like a little beetle on it. And then the cedar leaves, pretty colors in the fall. And here's Gwen and her friend Michelle at the small little falls that we enjoy. And further on down towards the lake, you see the button bush here. Of course, that's a plant we can all have in our landscaping. And it's a wonderful pollinator attractor. And it likes wet feet. It can do in dry as well. So here we are just sauntering and enjoying the fall weather. This is my dog, Corey. Bill mentioned that I did breed Rhodesian Ridgebacks. Not a lot, but I bred about 5 litters over the course of 30 plus years. And I showed dogs and it was fun. And I, just like I'm doing in plants, I joined the society and got to know people and do the right thing. It was a fun thing to do, but that's kind of part of my past now. But I still enjoy the Ridgebacks. And then we have Mirabelle, who is our first non-Ridgeback. She was a rescue dog. And Mirabelle and Gwen got to be great friends on all our saunters and they enjoyed walking each other. I think Mirabelle more walked Gwen than the other way. And here's Lisa. Now I thought this little quote a poem by Emily Dickinson fit Lisa well. To make a prairie, it takes a clover and 1 bee, 1 clover and a bee, and reverie. The reverie alone will do if the bees are few. I think that describes Lisa. So as you can see, we still have just gorgeous color in November. Going clockwise, little meadow there, and going down, I don't know if you can tell, but it does go down into the swell and up. That would be the first one on the trail. And then we have sumac, which is the trilobata, the bush, and then a fall blooming aster, and then a big blow up there. The yellow flower is the broomweed. I'm going to use common names today. And then the sumac again, and then 4-nerve daisy is still out. That 4-nerve daisy lasts and lasts. You'll see it in spring. And here we are in December. This is a picture of the moon. You can really tell though that one, I was using my phone to take all these. That's a long story why I was using my phone that won't tell you. But anyway, it's just reflected sunlight. It does look like reflected sunlight there. And I think that's a lovely picture of December. One thing we found in the evening was the pink band that would fill the sky, and at dusk was just very peaceful, very warming, very, very comforting. And here's a December look. You can see the dried eringo there in the foreground, the dried blue stem. Then on the upper right, we have Indian grass, and then there's gay feather on the bottom. So we really started to walk a lot in winter. That's a very nice time to walk. If you've never done it, I would think you should try. Also, Map My Walk is a good activity, a good thing to do. It'll keep track of how much you walk, how far you go. So we started using that. And this trail, by the way, is in the book 60 Hikes, 60 Miles. So if you have that book, if you don't, it's a great book to have. And they have them for Dallas and Fort Worth, Austin, all around the state. So 60 hikes, 60 miles. You'll find lots of walks around you. Here we started at Mustang Park, which is down at the southern part of the Benbrook Lake. And we did a nice long hike that day. We went really far along the shore, and you can't see, but we scrambled up this hill, and then we had to bushwhack it through the bushes and the grapevine and the greenbrier, and it was an adventure, a fun day. And then Michelle joined us with her greyhound. And then now we're back over by the slough. There's our son Adam and Mirabelle and Corey, and this is my family. So I have Adam and Ray and Mirabelle and Corey, and then there's Karina leading in the bottom picture up the hill with Ray and Corey in the behind. So we all got healthier and more relaxed and happier as we walked on the prairie. My friend Rita, who shows and rescues dogs. So now we're bringing friends and enjoying with them. They're enjoying sauntering with us. And still in December, you can find lots of color. So the snail seed vine is starting to turn brown. The cactus there, prickly pear, has the rose-colored tuna. And this green and orange or red up here, that's going to be Missouri primrose. Well, that is Missouri primrose, but it'll bloom out. You'll see soon. So just some other beautiful things that you can see when you saunter through the prairie. Looks like a cedar tree just full of lichens just covered in them. And then there's the honey locust, which is a very old tree that sloths megafauna used to eat the fruit of. And the Engelmann daisy and the rosette in the upper right there. It's getting ready. Can you believe that in December, we already have that going? Well, y'all know that. And we have lots of other rosettes are showing up in November and December for our next spring. So nature is getting ready. And then the cedar leaves, nice and yellow. So there's color. Now this area is what we call Prickly Pear Hill. From here, you can go straight or down the hill or to the left and find different adventures. I have a talent that I didn't know I had. When we started walking out there, I was like the only one that knew where we were. So I don't know, maybe I should have been a scout. So, well, I was a scout in Boy Scouts, but I meant like a scout. Okay, that made no sense. But I did. I knew where we were, and I could navigate us out of places that people just didn't know. And you can do that when you walk. Just pay attention to the trees, the landform. You can find your way. And then here's a really pretty possum hall. This is actually near the creek. And December's done. So we've gone October, November, and December. The skies were always very beautiful here in December. And this kind of epitomizes what we would do, because I prefer going out. I got to where I really liked dusk the best. And that shows a goodbye to the prairie for the night. And starting in January, so cold weather moving in. I'm kind of standing in a little cloud there, which is kind of interesting. Then as we went down through the swales, and you can see it here on the right, the temperature would drop. So by about 10 degrees. So when you were at the bottom, near where would be an ephemeral pool or ephemeral stream, it would be 10 degrees cooler than at the top. So we found that to be a really interesting phenomenon I've never really noticed before. And then it snowed. So this was January 10th. Karina's and Bill's birthday, and we decided to go out and enjoy the snow with our friend Lisa. And there we are, enjoying the snow. And there is Lisa. Oops, let me back up. Oh no, I did the wrong thing. Let me go back. Okay, back to Lisa, enjoying taking pictures of rough leaf dogwood. So here's a stand of rough leaf dogwood. And if you put them in your garden, they can do this. So you have to be prepared to tame them. But they're so beautiful in winter because they have these beautiful red little stems on them. I really enjoy that. Now, there may be somebody in the audience, I don't know, we have about 20, 22 people here now that know what kind of bird made these little tracks along the trail. So it's not just people using the trail, animals are using it too. And we have then a juniper there with snow on it, and then the blue stem there in the lower corner with snow on it. So starting clockwise, I'm going to give you a little, see if you can get your scout head on. At the upper left, we're leaving Prickly Pear Hill and we're going down, walking towards the creek. And we land here at the creek in the lower right. And we walk a little bit past that tree and look up the creek. And there we see that little waterfall. And again, January ends with the beautiful pink at dusk and the moon smiling at us as we leave that saunter for the day. We got to where we would walk out here almost every day in winter, or at least 4 times a week. It was very, very, very pleasant. And it's good to have dogs with you. Here we are on January 20th. The dogs told us that there were deer up on the horizon, and that is the closest that we got to deer in those upper pictures. So I tried to blow that up a little bit. We never saw, there's obvious signs of them out there, their bones, their tracks, but that's all the visual we got. And then at the bottom picture, the dogs did alert us to a feral politician. So it's always good to have a dog on lead with you. And you do want to keep them on lead in an environmentally sensitive area. So we're in February now, and maybe one of y'all may know what this is. We had no idea. It's like fire in the sky. It was a very interesting atmospheric phenomenon that I'm hoping somebody will be able to explain to me, but it lasted for quite some time and it really did look like fire in the sky. Maybe nature was trying to tell us that February was going to be a rough ride. Let's see. So here we are in February, and Maribel is always leading the pack. And down here by the creek, there is this a machine. I don't know what to call it. We affectionately call it the Beast. The water district calls it a water outlet. Not quite as good a name as the Beast. But water from there is let out, and we were fortunate enough one day to be there when the gates came up and water came gushing out. And I asked the people at the Trinity Water District about it, and that water comes from 90 miles away from 2 East Texas lakes, reservoirs. So very interesting. If Lake Pembroke gets low, that can be opened and our water replenished. So this is on the creek, obviously. And I just thought this was so interesting how you can see the roots of this tree. I think it's a cedar. I'm really not sure. I need to go back and check now that's leaked out. And the way that it's just clinging on to that bank is fascinating. And then in the foreground, of course, is the button bush. The little seed heads are the button bush. And just another look there along the creek in February. It's fenced. There's fences throughout here. Part of this is the Sid Richardson Prairie, and part of it is the Army Corps of Engineers. And of course, the Corps has land there to help protect our water sources. And so my neighbor, Latasha, came for a walk with us. She really enjoyed it. And that's my favorite place to get pictures of people. And are you recognizing the trees? That's a similar shot. And there's the dip. This is the second dip. This is the dip that has all the big blue stem in it. And now March. So March kind of looked a little different. It was a little bit more windy. We strayed and tried to go to different places than we had before. And we got to a pretty high place where we could get a good view of the entire prairie. That's almost a 360 view. And you can find all kinds of things. We found this bone. I think it's probably a cow bone. It's really huge. That's my foot. And you might also check out the gator that I have. I learned rather quickly that you really want to keep the stuff out of your boots. And so gators are the way to go. And I have winter gators and summer gators. The winter gators go up to my knee and the summer gators just cover the top of the shoe. And Gwen had a good time looking at bones, collecting bones. She's I guess a budding biologist. I hope so anyway. In March, we have our spring herald. This is elbow bush. This is a male elbow bush because it's a dioecious plant. And the males have more yellowish flowers. So that when you're walking next March, be sure to look for that in the woods. And if you see the yellow flowers, you know that's a male. And they tend to bloom before the females, just a little bit. So now when I walk, now I know which plants out there are male and female, and I can say hi to them in their correct gender. Anyway, that's a male. And then here's a female. So the female flowers are green, more green. In March, we're starting to see spring flowers. You have the astragalus there on the left, and then a 10-petal anemone on the right. I was very happy to see those. And we saw a green snake. How fun. Mirabelle was right underneath it, and she didn't see it, which surprised me. And then we have the crow's poison there on the right. So here's March. Here's our creek at March. And what a difference a few weeks makes. Here's a creek in April, same place. Everything's starting to green up and be happy and certainly put a smile on our face as we anticipated seeing the prairie change through the year. Of course, the blue stem is still in its fall russet stage, but the downy pink paintbrush came out and the four-nerve daisy there, as you can see on the trail. And then we have a different set of friends walking with us this day. This is a place that has a really interesting plant. This is a fern. I forgot the name of it. I'm terribly sorry, but it's kind of in this bottom area under these trees, and there's just a whole bunch of them there. And I had no idea there were ferns there that look like this. And Bill Freiheit was kind enough to ID them for me. So, and I think Marty was on that walk as well that day. Oh, and there's Bill and Marty and Ray. And we're looking at rough leaf dogwood there on the upper right, and then the four-nerve daisy in the bottom. And here's some plums. So this is going to be food for animals that live out here that they can forage. And if you do kind of forage, be sure that you don't forage too much and you leave some for nature. On the left, you have downy pink paintbrush with New Jersey tea. So those are the flowers of a bush And it doesn't get very big. It stays the highest I've ever seen one of them get is 2.5, maybe 3 feet. And then on the right, of course, is Downy Pink Paintbrush with Missouri Primrose in the back. No, that's not Missouri Primrose, my mistake. That's, Berlander's Sundrops. There we go. And are y'all starting to notice that this part of this trail, one of my favorite places to take pictures, these are the blue stars. They're very early blooming plants. And then they'll move on and we'll get different things. So starting clockwise, you have your blue stars and four-nerve daisies, then agara, then we have prairie parsley, the sundrops, and then sundrops again. And now we have the Missouri primrose. And one of my favorite plants, it just, I love the way the petals look crepey and just beautiful. Makes me happy to be out there. So here's that same trail on the right here that before had the blue stars, and now you can't see them at all. You may be able to see some of the sundrops and verbena starting there. And then here's the creek area. When we had all the rain, y'all, this area right through here that you see where Gwen and Lisa are, that was covered, I'll bet, in 3 feet higher than where Lisa's standing. I bet it was up to her knees at least, with all the rain that we had. So hyacinths were on the trail. They don't last very long. So when you see them, enjoy them and get all the pictures you can, because you'll go back 2 days later and can't find them. The wine cups came out. And then one of my really favorite, we have 2 of these in our yard now. It's the Ambrosia fruticosa. I don't remember the common name for it, but what a lovely flower and early pollinator. So here's Jenny. We took Jenny on a long walk. That day we went about 4.5 miles, and she was afraid of snakes, so I had to put the snake in with Jenny. Watch out for snakes, Jenny. And then the flax there, so lovely. This was probably one of April and May were the most abundance of flowers in April and May, and I think I took 1,000 pictures in April. It was very hard to figure out which ones to show you. We did see this very old monarch. It's a male. You can see he's got the little dot there on his hind wing. And he was trying to get maybe some of his last few days drinks there. But not far away from him, there was a larva that looked like it was pretty big. So this larva was wandering around on a prickly pear and may have been ready to pupate. And then you see here the antelope horns with a bee on it and some other little creatures in there. What says spring? Downy pink paintbrushes. Four-nerve daisies. Maybe some little, I'm not sure what the white flower is. This is the same day, the walk with Jenny. We went pretty far up the trail to get the view of the lake. And then all the flowers that you see, the yellow flowers there, I think almost all of those were Engelmann daisies. A few things we just saw along the trail, the coral honeysuckle, spiderworts, and then on Prickly Pear Hill, there's quite a bit of antelope horn. And we counted, and there's Jenny and Lisa counting, I think there were 8 caterpillars on that one plant. So this was a wonderful, this was probably mid to late April when we saw them all. It was very exciting because we had been looking and looking and looking, and we finally found some. And the Prairie Celeste was exciting too. I I'm not sure, but I think these flowers only stay open for a few hours in the day. I'll have to look that up, but it was a thrill to see them, and they're absolutely beautiful flowers. And now we're in May. And with May comes a whole new suite of flowers and more insects. We have the little spittlebug and a ladybug and a monarch bug. And underneath that, I'm sorry, not a monarch bug. It's a milkweed bug. But I don't know if you can see underneath it is a little monarch caterpillar. So we're seeing a lot more life. And we're looking closely, trying to see everything we can see. Agave. And this area is the first dip on the trail, and that's all allium there, which is onion, wild onion. And so we call this the onion dip, and it's running with water. So the ephemeral stream is running. Penstemons were abundant this year. I don't know if it's like any other year, but I'll find as I continue to walk this prairie for as long as I can. So sensitive briar, and then I believe that's going to be that is a clasping coneflower, I'm pretty sure. May, oh, I have to go faster. Let me go faster. Here's May, so we're gonna run through May. We have prickly pear, and now there's Marty and Ray walking down through that I think is the second dip. And look at all the larkspur. How gorgeous is that? Larkspur, wine cup, sundrops. The sundrops are very long lasting in the prairie. Clasping coneflower. And you can see the picture with my boot, we're, I don't know, way off in the distance. That's the river that you saw before with all the pictures. The water is up very high. So, and the clasping coneflowers do not bloom for very long. And then here's two sundrops and then a coreopsis with a little beetle. And we're starting to see prairie bishop's weed. Here's old plainsman and basket flower, and the antelope horns are now going to seed. As you can see, there got great fertilization out there. I mean, my gosh, look how many seed pods are on that one plant. And then the silphium, the white rosin plant, which is endemic to Texas, is on this prairie. So here's a prairie bishop's weed. One thing it does that I think is so fun, it's like it's the partner for all the other flowers that are out there. It just kind of sets everybody off and says, welcome to spring and be happy and enjoy life. That's what it says to me anyway. And here's a little bit more of our silphium, which was, I thought, pretty abundant. And not too many bluebells, but we did see bluebells out there. There are gourds, lemon horsemint, and now there's the flower. Remember the bud we saw in October before, the little rosebud, a rose hip? There's the flower for it. And here is the dayflower, the Texas dayflower. This is a native dayflower. It's not the one that is so annoying in your garden. This is the native one. And I was surprised to see how brilliant the blue was and how much bigger these flowers are. I mean, they were probably a good 1.5 inches wide. And they just really stood out under the bush. So, you know, what says prairie, but beautiful blue stem is starting now to look great. And there it is with the basket flower. Oh, did I show this picture again? Maybe I am. Or maybe it's just the same flowers at a different time. And let's see. So we fell in love with the prairie. And I hope that you will too. You probably already are. If you live in Texas, it's a prairie state. And we need to persevere. We need to preserve our prairies. I found inspiration from Laura Ingalls Wilder's quote here: "The real things haven't changed. It's still best to be honest and truthful, to make the most of what we have, to be happy with simple pleasures, and to have courage when things go wrong." That kind of sums up what we've all had to do through this last, gosh, it's going on 2 years. But we can have courage, and we can find pleasure and be happy, sauntering and getting to know nature better. And thanks very much. There's the gate we go out when we leave our trail.
Let me ask you a question, if I could. Is this how big is this park? First of all, or is it a park? Is it what would you call it? You call it an area?
It's not a park. You know, Bill, I really don't know if when we walk. Maybe Martin's here. If he maybe he can unmute and tell us.
Okay, I'll ask him to do that. And also, yeah. I was wondering, is it open to the public?
Yes, it is. It's public land. It's at Benbrook Lake. It's managed by the Corps of Engineers. It's there's probably a couple hundred acres of prairie itself, but the whole area is probably 700 acres. The property line goes up against the Sid Richardson Foundation's land onto the I get my directions messed up, but to the northwest, I believe, and then to the east, our property extends out towards Chisholm Trail Parkway, the tollway. There is, like Kim said, there's that little gate you can walk through. One thing that's hard with the Corps is we're a multi-use agency, so we have a lot of different folks using it. In the fall and early winter, there are hunters out there. So if you are walking, maybe wear some blaze orange and just be aware of that. But the prairie's there because it never really was overgrazed or plowed or anything like that. Old man Richardson, Sid Richardson, the oil mogul, owned a lot of that, and the Corps bought it from him back in the 40s to create the lake. So that's why the prairie's still there. It's a pretty interesting place. We'd like to manage it more, maybe do some prescribed burns, get rid of some of the woodies that's invading into the prairie from the stream. But it's still pretty much intact, like it was back when the Comanches roamed that area. So it's really a neat place.
It's so wonderful. We love it. And, you know, I didn't know that it was free and open to the public. I probably drove by that road for 20 years I drove by there and thought it was private land. And when the Chisholm Trail came through, then we didn't drive by there anymore at all. We didn't have to, but this was the way we got to Fort Worth. And I can't believe that I could have been walking out there for 20 years and didn't know, but now I know, and I will walk. And I want to just emphasize it's an environmentally sensitive area. So, dogs on leads, pick up, don't trash it, try to not blaze too many new trails. Am I saying everything right, Marty?
Yes, you are. Yep.
Okay.
And there are a lot of rare plants out there, so it'd be nice for everyone to share and not pull up flowers and pull up plants and things like that. It's for everybody. It's public land, so it's all of ours. So let's take care of it.
Yeah, we need to be careful. And we found that in the fall, the hunters were more on the other side, where the roadside, and so we stayed on the other side of the creek from the hunters. They were a little scary.
Of course, the bullets can go across the creek, but
I know. I think they were shooting birds. I don't think there's deer hunt. Martin, is there deer hunting out there?
There is. There's deer hunting and then small game. The dove hunting in the early fall, but there's not a whole lot of use out there. So just be wary when you're out there. The best time to go, like Kim says, is early spring to late spring, before the chiggers really get bad and ticks and things like that. But in the fall, like October, the big blue stem, it should be a good year for big blue stem. It can grow over your head. It gets taller than taller than 6 feet. And it's really impressive to see.
I'm really excited to get pictures of this fall of the big blue stem.
it didn't seem like there were a lot of people there.
Oh no, those were just the people that we brought. We did not, the whole time we walked there in 9 months, we only saw one other person on the trail. I mean, the people that you saw, did you say it seemed like there were a lot or were not?
We're not a lot.
Oh, right. Yeah, correct. There were not. It's very pleasant now. It is in that book. And on the other side of the trail, closer to Mustang Park, is a horse trail. So there are people that do horse rides a lot out there.
Well, I'm going to go ahead and let other people just join in.
Oh, good.
Here, if you want to.
Yeah, there's not very many people, and they could even turn on their video so we could all have a talk.
Hello, this is Mickey Revere. I was wondering, but did the deep freeze in February impact the prairie there?
Oh, it seemed to make everything grow better, I thought. Yeah. And I tell you what, we had so many ticks on us. I don't know what the ticks just starting in May, like Marty says, a lot of ticks. So come home and do a tick check. Yeah.
There was a question from Rachel about poaching plants. I have seen a couple people. I have caught a couple people out there poaching. Let them know, it's not the right thing to do. And we do have citation authority through the federal government through Title 36. We can fine people, but we try to resolve issues at the lowest level and just give them a reprimand and let them go.
So can I do it, Marty? If I see him, can I do a citizen's arrest?
So you could just educate them,
Yeah. Yeah. Now, what about seed collecting? Would that be something that the Native Plant Society could do?
Yeah, I don't see a problem with that. I mean, as long as they don't go overboard, I mean,
Mm-hmm.
these are all native to the Fort Worth Prairie remnants.
Mm-hmm.
So they're probably genetically different from some of the other blue stem and different plants you get from places like Native American seed down in Junction. So they probably have a different genetic makeup, and they're unique to north central Texas.
Just remember when you're collecting seeds to, first of all, don't take seeds from the first plant you see, and then don't take all of the seeds from that you see.
Right. Always leave some for nature. Yeah. Someone said they liked the word saunter. I actually got that from John Muir. I wish I had thought to get his quote, but he said he didn't like the word hike because hikers go too fast and they don't enjoy nature, that he liked to saunter. And I know y'all are like that because if you go on a botany walk, it takes about 30 minutes to go about 30 feet.
Uh, what about invasive plants there?
Well, there are a few. We do have some Johnson grass and KR blue stem coming in places. There is some wild carrot, but overall, since it's never been damaged, there's not a chance for the invasives, the exotic invasives, to come in and take over. So as long as it stays intact, we should be okay.
Well, Marty, I would say the areas that we normally walk, which is about 2 miles in, it takes a good 2.5 miles in to get around Lake Benbrook, and then privet. A lot of privet there.
There's a lot of privet in the woods, and there's both
Mhm.
Japanese privet and Chinese privet. You know that we can't help the birds spreading the seeds around. It's a bad problem, and when you have to deal with privet, you have to dig it up or treat it with herbicide after you cut it because it'll resprout. So keep that in mind. Juniper, eastern red cedar, ash juniper are native, but they tend to be aggressive in the prairies because it's deeper soils and they take advantage of it. So at some point, you know, when we get money and funding and we'll work with NGOs, we can do some thinning and things like that to allow the prairie to regenerate in some of those areas where there is a lot of cedar elm or eastern red cedar coming in.
Yeah, we saw that. It's some of them cedar elms are encroaching. Hmm. Did you say that you thought that they may be able to have burns out there at some time in the future?
Well, we're just getting ready to sign an MOU with the Texas Forest Service, so we could probably get them to help us set up a burn. We burned it in 2016 with the Richardson Foundation. They paid for everything, and instead of just going to the fence line, they went ahead and did all the way through our property as well. Just being good neighbors. Burns really stimulate the prairie. You know, all of North America's fire, they're ecological fire, you know, driven by fire. So fire really brings a lot of nitrogen back to the soil, and some seeds need it to germinate, things like that. So it's a good tool to have.
I'm excited about that. I can't wait. When's the best time of year to do a fire?
You know, it's hard to do hot burns anymore in the summer because there's too many people. It's too urbanized. So we try to do them in the wintertime. There's a lot more fuel in the wintertime as well. So it does help.
That's interesting.
But, you know, lightning struck, you know, in the summertime mostly. That's how most of the fires were started back in the day. So hot fires tend to be better than cold fires.
Oh, that's interesting. Rachel says they have problems in San Antonio with people poaching plants. I'm sorry about that. We don't see very many people out here, and we walk mornings, afternoons, evenings in the winter. But the summer, it just got too hot. We didn't walk at all in July between the rain and the heat. We did a morning walk. We got out there at 6 o'clock, and then by 9 o'clock, it was too hot. So I think that was the last day of June, and we just haven't been back. So I'm looking forward to September now to go back out. This was so fun. Thank y'all for letting me share my prairie saunters.
Thank you so much, Kim, for coming and doing this, and thank you, Martin, for all your wonderful comments and stuff too. We appreciate that.
No problem. Anytime.
Thanks for coming, Marty.
Well,
Bill, this was fun.
Well, great. I'm glad you enjoyed it, and I think I enjoyed it a lot. I hope everybody else did too, and I hope you'll come back next month at the same first Wednesday at noon, and we'll have another great presentation for it. Look for it on our calendar. Should be announcing the subject matter soon. So thanks again for everybody for coming.
Okay, thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye.